Welcome back, dear children. So this is the slide which you saw the last. So be true to the period. If you are setting up a story in the past, your dialogue has to resemble the past. Okay, words, choices, idioms, whatever speech pattern, the way you give the dialogue delivery, everything has to be the resemblance of the period. Clothes they wear also has to be in the past style if you are taking for past, present style if you are taking in the present, and future also. So conversation need to be specific to the time you are writing in without seeming contrived, right? So shall we go to the next slide, dear? Any doubt till now? A desire should motivate your characters to speak. Desire is a wish. Okay, when your characters are speaking, they should be trying to get something from one another or make the power play, like make the conversation very interesting to hear. When writing dialogue, ask yourself what your characters want. Okay, how it has to be interesting when you are hearing the same dialogue, then how you are expecting that dialogue to be the same has to be presented. So our wish and others wish, mostly it will be the same, right? If you are not feeling good, then others will also not feel good, right? When you are writing dialogue, you ask yourself what your characters want. So this is crucial aspect of character development. So ideally, you will know your characters well enough to sense not only what they want, but how they would express their desires verbally, because you are the person creating the character. You are the person who is giving the role for that particular character. So will they be blunt or subtly manipulative? So will they be angry or do they always keep their cool? So all these characteristics that you have to decide, because you are the character designer, right? So fictional characters don't say ah. So this is the third point. Fictional characters don't say in real life, speech has lots of padding or stuffing words like a, so all that we will use it when in class itself. In our class, you could have seen, right? When a child is coming and talking to me, you could have observed this, right? Mm, my teacher told me, miss, to get the register, miss. Like that. A, all that extra sounds. Even when I am speaking, you could have observed that, right? That is real life speech. But in dialogue, you should not include all those, right? A good dialogue in fiction must be both incisive and selective. So it is shown down to reveal what people want from one another. It has to reveal the character and dramatize the power struggles. So the wordings has to be very powerful. One of the most common mistake when writing dialogue is to write down exactly what people say most of the time. That was a mistake what we are doing. That was a common mistake what we are doing, right? So we have to avoid all those mistakes. This will probably be dull, as it will be full of like so forth. Unfortunately, so many times. Okay. So all these words will make the conversation dull, and it will not be interesting, rambling, repetitious, and not very sparky. It will not be very interesting to hear. Pay careful attention to dialogue punctuation, particularly things like exclamation points, which should be used sparingly. right? There is always subtext, in the sense there are often wide gaps between what people say and what they are thinking. So, what I am saying now, I will think about the time consumption. I will think about how much of information I have to give you. So many thinkings will be there in my mind. Okay. And what is next? Question paper has to be designed, or how the children is going to prepare for their exam. All the things will be there in my thinking. So what people say and what people think will be little bit different. Okay, so there will be a gap between the saying and thinking, right? That is what they are mentioning. There are often wide gaps between what people say and what they are thinking, between what one understands and what one refuses to hear. So one dialogue will give the do you think the same dialogue will give the same meaning to all the children? Sometimes what happen, if I'm saying a dialogue that will give one meaning to one child and another meaning to another child. Okay, so one understands and one refuses to hear, both are also there. These gaps can collectively be referred to as subtext, and they are valuable territory for the fiction writers. So stay alert to them and let them generate drama in the scenes you write. Good. So 4 prompts to develop your dialogue writing skills. What are the prompts? What you have to follow to develop your dialogue writing skills? First thing is you have to go to public places. Okay, now it is not the right time, but if there is any chance, you have to go to public place where people tend to talk to one another, where people talk more, right? The best thing is coffee shop. Try a cafe or a public transportation. Spend 10 minutes eavesdropping on a conversation. So you have to watch a conversation between two persons at least for 5 to 10 minutes, right? So you have to record everything they say and how they say it as specifically as you can. How they say it, the modulation. If this is your first time trying something like this, be mindful, respectful of people's personal space. So if they are talking very closely, intimately, a secret, then we should not involve in that. If they are talking very commonly, like a politics or cinema, or the common topics is going on, then you can observe them, right? So next is transcribe. Later, transcribe this conversation into word processing document as faithfully as you can. So what happens is whatever you heard has to be framed as a written format, has to be framed in a written format as a document. So what conclusions can you draw from what you heard? So two persons are talking means one will be little bit powerful than the other. By speaking itself, you could have analyzed that. So who has more power? Who wants what? Who was listening more closely? Did someone interrupt the other or ignore them? Okay. So all these things have to be considered in mind. When you are writing a dialogue, you start a new paragraph each time you switch perspectives. Perspectives is views of a person. So it's easier to track who is saying what. Now, next thing is pick the most interesting bits. In that conversation itself, some dialogues will be there. Okay. For example, in a Vijay film, you would have heard, "I'm waiting." So this is a small, simple dialogue which became very hit. Okay, everybody started using this dialogue, "I'm waiting." Even in my recording, so many dialogues will be like that, right? So take out, pick out the best conversation. Okay, most interesting bits. In a new document, select the part of the conversation that more interested to you, right? So whether it is a few line or a particularly charged interruptions, somebody is coming and interrupting, if that is interesting, you can pick that also and use it as a seed of a fictional scene. Here you're free to cut filler, condense meaning, and change the words, and add gestures, body language, silence, and subtext to reveal these characters and what they want to the reader. So you want the reader to make it interesting. You want to impress the reader. You want to make the reader mad about your dialogue. So what is needed for that, you have to do, right? So get writing. Next point is get writing. After answering all these questions, did a narrative about these strangers begins to form in your imagination? So you have to start framing a story. After hearing all these, you have to start a little short story about it. And remember, you don't need to get too creative with dialogue tags. Dialogue tags are the one which is used at the end of the sentence or in the front of the sentence. She said, he said, he whispered, she tolerated. So said or ordered, whatever it is. So that is called as dialogue tags. The frags that follow a piece of dialogue that attribute it to whoever is speaking. If in doubt, aim for clarity. There is nothing wrong with she said or he said. Okay. So who said doesn't matter. What is the content is much more important. Okay, and who is saying that delivery has to be clear to you. Okay, if you have any doubt, you just clarify that and aim for the clarity, right? The following titles include examples of great dialogues as recommended by Margaret Atwood. So these are all the examples, like Charles Dickens, already we discussed about him in Zoom class, right? Charles Dickens, while the heroes and heroines tend to be a bit wooden, the lesser, the usually rural or cockney, figures reflect the way people really talk. He was the first after Shakespeare to do this. Shakespeare was the first person to give an interesting dialogue. After that is Charles Dickens. So any of Elmore Leonard's thrillers, Ulysses, then Chicken by Lynn Crosby, Get in Trouble by Kelly Link, Lives of Girls and Women's by Alice Munro. All these are the best dialogue that you can go through any of the books if you have chance. So whether you're doing it as a creative exercise or incorporating it in your next novel or short story, knowing how to write good dialogues takes practice, right? So practice makes a man perfect. All these wordings you know already. So award-winning author of The Handmaid's Tale, Margaret Atwood, has spent decades, one decade is 10 years. 2 decades means 20 years. So has spent decades. So it is in plural form. honing the craft of weaving realistic dialogues into compelling plot.